Hello, and welcome to tonight and me opening up. This is gonna be on things about my adopted family, and I know they always threaten me that they're gonna take me to court if I tell things. But you know what? They're fine with me telling everything with my biological. So, you know what? There's always two sides to every story. And like I said in my tweet this evening, I was gonna give some stuff out there to you and talk to you about what my life was like with them. And I'm gonna do it, in not that stupid of a way. I'm not dumb. I'm not gonna give names, but I would love to give the real names. But you know what? I don't want to be sued. And if they want to bring their own stupid, idiotic selves out, fine, they can. But I've said a lot of the goods that they've done for me. And yeah, they have done a lot of good for me. I think most families have goods and bads about them. But the difference here is that my family just likes to focus on what they've done for me. And how much they've helped me, what they've done, and how bad my biological side was. And you know what? That's so much BS. Like, my biological is really no different than my adopted. I mean, they both have ups and downs, is what I meant. And, in life, I think that's just what it is. I've been decent at times. I've been a bitch at times. I know what I am, though. That's the difference. And some people, just a minute, I'm sorry. Anyways, some people, have that ideation that they're perfect. And what I've come to realize about people is the more that they keep secret and hidden and that they don't let other people know about, the more you have to wonder, what really do they have that they're hiding? And there's so many things I could share about my adoptive family, and they'll act like I'm in the wrong, that I'm lying, but I'm not. That's just it, and I think that they need to be brought out for what they are. And somehow, every time I've told my different stuff about my family, my channel's gotten messed with. So, I have to redo it, and a lot of my stuff has gotten taken, so I don't really know who's the one that did it, but 100%. So I'm not going to say things like that, but, it is kind of odd now that I think about it. I always thought it was a certain person, but maybe very well it might have been someone in my family who didn't like that I was saying things on the family. But we shall see. If it keeps happening and it gets messed with again, then maybe it was, Now I have to re-wonder who's on my stuff. Because maybe they're hidden and they're catfishing too. No, that's the thing that gets me so annoyed, is how people are so fake in our world. They're Julie types. And I don't mind saying that, because that means basically you want to have the image and you don't want to actually own up to what you are. You hide your crap behind closed doors and you just pretend like you're some great saint. And none of you really know what I'm talking about saying Julie type, so I don't think I can get in trouble by that. Only in-house people would understand that comment. So, but yeah, I think I'm gonna start with the most recent stuff, because I could dig in the past, and that's a whole can of worms on its own. And there's a lot of things that has happened that they've just brushed under the rug, and it gets me really annoyed, because this is one reason I believe that my family runs narcissistic-like, meaning they are a unit as a whole, and they basically use my mom as the person that communicates. So basically, they have their own little group meetings and whatever they do to talk about things. And then they discuss it, and then they make a dictatorship, and they decide on what plan, a course of action they're going to do as a group to save face for the whole group. It's kind of what they're like. And I never knew much about narcissistic people. I didn't even know such a thing existed. So I think that more than anything, they are one unit and they are narcissists. So I don't know if that's a possible thing, but I think that's what it would be, because I don't think one single one of them is any more narcissistic than the other. I think they're all the same. They're all in the same boat. They put themselves in the same category. So therefore, I think they all run together to make it the easiest way for the whole family unit. And all my life, I was never a part of it. I was never included. Johnny was never included. We were the adopted children. Maybe they just adopted us from pity and because they have somebody that they could see as not a part of the group and, to press blame on. John, of course, made it kind of easy because he was a very troubled child. And I was too, but I held it in. And I did a better job at masking my emotion when I was first growing up. Like, I did have my emotional outbursts, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of temper tantrums. But I think I did a better job of playing that goody-goody house mouse that they wanted me to be. And so they didn't focus on me. They focused on John because he was always getting into trouble at school, and he had a lot of behavioral issues from the abuse that we suffered. So it was, it was stuff that obviously most people would understand and have pity, If a child wets his bed, for instance, okay, if he's just doing it on purpose, but if he's been sexually molested and other things like that, it's a lot different than if you just are being a troublemaker. Like, looking back on it, I don't really think that he was doing that on purpose. I think it was part of the psychological abuse that he had suffered, and emotional and, mental and physical. And I read into that. And my mom, this is stuff my adopted mom, should have known because she's a nurse. And to understand that, yes, children who are abused will sometimes wet their beds. I've even looked into it and I've actually noticed it. And he would get beat for doing that. And, looking back at it, it's really, I should have stood up for him a lot more than I did. And I feel very bad in myself for that reason, because I wasn't strong enough to go against my dad. And, I was scared of him, very scared of him and his punishments, because in my family, if you did something bad, it was very rarely did you get to say, no, I didn't, and them actually believe you. Most of the time, someone was going to get punished, So they would even at times, a couple times at least that I know of and remember, that because they were that influential. I had something that happened and my mom smacked me and she wanted me to give a certain answer and I didn't. And she kept smacking me until I agreed with whatever she said. And I learned that if I just did that, and then I would get the other punishment as well, because I didn't want to keep getting smacked. So sometimes I would end up lying because I didn't want to get punished, and I would still get punished. So it was like they basically taught me to lie. And, that was really something I did not like to do. I was that type of kid where I would wrap myself out in my emotions, in my expression. I could not lie very easily and get away with things like that. Even before I got punished, most of the time, if I knew I had done something wrong and I was scared about the outcome of the punishment, I would be so worried about what was going to happen. I would be focusing on the fact I'm going to get beat. I didn't have the comprehension and the awareness when I was a child to know, gee, I could just say I didn't do it, and I didn't do it. I didn't think like that. I was very naive back then, and it got used. I got used a lot because of that, and tricked, manipulated, and my family was one of the ones that really played on my emotional behaviors, because I would cry so easily, and I was such a sensitive child. They all knew it. They teased me about it, and at least he could cry at the drop of a hat, and that is true. I was that type of child, and I was a very loving, emotional child, but I also was very, I would get hurt easily, and if somebody said something, to hurt my feelings especially, it would really hurt me and affect me in a very, very drastic way. And they would do that a lot, more than anything. My siblings did that, but I guess that's to be expected. The reason I really started all this is because I'm really getting tired of the games that they play with me. They still do, and I know that they know what they're doing. They act so innocent online and so innocent wherever we are. I've written them about how I feel, and they act like they use their excuse that they have medical issues that's more important right now than how I feel, which fine. I understand everybody in my family is getting illnesses, but that's not an excuse to not ever write me. And before all this happened, before there even illnesses, they had plenty of chances they could write me and talk to me. They never do. They never write me. They never say hi. They never act like, how am I doing? The only one that writes me right now is my mom. And that's pretty mediocre online, like Facebook, nothing different than anybody else, really. And it's just made me realize I don't have family anymore. I realized that they're not really family. They're just there, and the thing is they all pay attention to each other. They all comment on each other's things. They all are very much in each other's lives, and they've kicked me completely out of their life. And yet it feels like I'm the one kicking them out, because I finally got to that point where I started blocking them again, because I was like, you know what? What's the point? And I was getting annoyed at seeing things in my feeds that my mom had done this or helped this or gone here or there with my family. They do that so much, and it just brings awareness that they didn't care about my birthday at all. They were willing to go to each other's, but they don't care about me. And it just feels like I have nobody. And, it's like, I thought maybe they would care that I've gotten somewhere, that they would care that I'm trying my dreams, support me and be happy and proud of me that I'm actually doing something. But, online it's all fine and good. They act like they care and support me because they want to save face for the family, but in real life, they never even, they could care less if I died or fell off the face of the earth, and that's just how I feel. That's how it is. And it's like my sister was like, "Oh, I'm sorry that you feel that way." It's like, what kind of response is that? You can't just, like, you're like, you're sorry. You're not sorry. You're just saying it because you don't want to, because it's just something to say. You know, if you're really truly sorry, then you'd actually care about seeing us or having us over, not just sitting there and dissing me out, not just being negative toward my dreams and bringing me down. You'd actually care to see me succeed for once. It's been years, and me and Isaac's been through a lot. We've been through homelessness. We've been through having nothing, no cars, going outside in the freezing below 0-degree weather, especially back in the days we had to do that 4 miles. And we were lucky, you know, we had to go 4 miles one way just to get to the bus stop. And we had his polypros from his military. If we hadn't had that, we could have frozen just to go somewhere so we can get some food, you know, because we were way out on Alpine Meadows and we had to do that for a long time. Nobody in my family really seemed to care. And they didn't even, they stopped inviting us to Christmas get-togethers and stuff because we were becoming so poor, and they acted like we wouldn't be able to come over anyways or get gifts or anything. So they didn't even invite us that year. And it was kind of the year that where everything just started going downhill. We had lost our car from an accident, and then from there we couldn't get a job because you need a freaking vehicle. And you know, we could have biked or whatever if we could have, but to this one temporary job place, and they said we had to have a vehicle to do that. So it was right down on Alpine. We could have just biked over that area because it was summertime at one point, and they were like, nope. So we didn't do that. We ended up living on unemployment for a while, and then we had to leave, and we had to sell our place. And if it wasn't for Isaac's mom, she at least came and bailed us out, got us the house again, and then we sold it, and then we moved into motels. And that was our first time we went into motel hopping. And then we got off our feet again because we got in an independent place. From there, we went to a couple subsidized housing places because, you know, independent places suck. If you don't know, most of them are crap. And the person was wanting us to pay the gas for everybody there, and I was like, no, that was Jessica's place. And then we went to Weston, and then we went to Herkimer's. We stayed a year in each place, and then we finally got to Brentwood, and then we lost that, and we went back to motels. So we've been in motels since like 2010. Yeah, it's been a long time. And you know, we've been literally out in the streets before, and hardly any food at times, hardly any gas. We've slept in our car at times. I guess I was used to it from my childhood, but it wasn't fun, you know. And I've had, like I said, I had the heart surgery, and I had medical issues. None of my family ever came. I think my mom and dad came. That's about it. And so, you know, as my family is getting ill and all that, you know, I've supported my dad at times, but it feels like none of them cared. And even when my dad was in at one point, the hospital at one point, nobody even told us about where he was. They didn't even care to tell us. So I was like, okay, well, I guess they don't care. And they all took a picture and put it on Facebook on Christmas last year. They were all together, and we were the only ones not there. So it's like, you know, when people do that, I get so annoyed because, you know, they'll take pictures with each other, but they never take it with me and Isaac. And Isaac noticed that about his mom as well. Like, she doesn't like taking pictures of us. And nobody in my families do. Like, but yet they try to judge me on what pictures I take. But yet they don't want to take pictures of me. So it's like, then they don't need to judge me then. If they don't want to be in my pictures, they're not going to be in them. You know, they're not going to have to be on my stuff. But, you know, if I didn't take pictures of myself of people, I wouldn't even have any of them. And like I said, they've taken things. They have all my stuff from when I was in college. My sister, she took all my things and she sold it. She sold a lot of my stuff and gave away to other family members some other stuff of mine. And it's like, it just hurts that they do that. Things like that, you know, it's not even the worst of everything. The worst of everything is really what made everything in my family, you know, environment go bad. Because this happened. And it took years before they realized that it had happened, but once they did realize, they've been working so hard to make sure I don't say anything about him. I'm talking about one of my brothers and his friend, who is over the legal limit. I mean, the legal age. At the time of this event, he was of age, and I was 8. And I was a little 8-year-old kid. I'd just gotten out of the bathroom. And my brother and his friend were standing in the other room right next to Johnny's room. And I guess they were talking or something, and I came out like normal, you know, and I was just gonna go downstairs or to my room or whatever. I didn't really like using the upstairs room anyways, because it was more of the emergency bathroom, because it wasn't as nicely kept up, because my mom didn't clean it because she couldn't, you know, come upstairs. It was harder for her to go upstairs and clean it, so she just let us kids have that room. And so I only used it if somebody else was in the other room and I had to go really bad. And I would go in, I would do my thing, and I'd get quickly out. And that was what I did, you know, unless I had to go, you know, number 2. But I didn't that day. I think I just had to go pee. But yeah, I came out when I was this little tiny grade school kid. I was just 8, you know, I was 2nd grade. And I'm not going to say any names, not even his friend's name, because that would give it away. But I don't have any of them on my stuff, so I can at least say this story. Not really much to it. They wanted to see me in that way, and I don't remember which one approached me. But I know one of them asked me if they could look at my parts, you know, as a little kid. And I was, you know, they knew I had been that way when I was a little toddler, because they remember what I had said, things I had said, I guess, is what my mom said I said when I was a little kid. I didn't really know what I was talking about. I just knew what I was taught. But, yeah, they wanted to see me. And I think it was the friend that's 18 that instigated it. But my brother didn't back down or say no. He just went along with it. And so I pulled my pants down and I showed my part, and they showed, I think one of them showed me theirs and let me touch it. And, you know, it was felt very wrong, and I didn't really want to, but I was this little 8-year-old kid. I didn't really think much of it, you know. I was kind of like, okay. You show your parts to some kid, like they're gonna think it's so great. No, they're not. They're gonna just see it as what it is. It's just a thing. It's not meant for a little kid. It's not meant for a kid to be all, wow, that's so great. I really want to put it in my mouth or something. It's disgusting. And I just remember kind of it being a little hairy and stuff. I don't remember much else. I really don't. It's kind of vague. And then I think they touched me as well. And that was that, And they told me not to tell. So I didn't. And somehow I dissociated from that for a while. And I dissociated from the feelings. I was able to, hug my brother goodnight every night. Well, not every night. I didn't hug him goodnight every night, but I was able to, be around him at meals and see him as my brother. I just saw him as that, Dissociation is people don't understand it, but it's basically somehow in your brain, you basically release that memory somewhere else so that you're not remembering it consciously, so you can just live your life. And a lot of times people that dissociate are ones that have to deal with that person on a day-to-day basis. There's a lot of things that possibly could have happened in my family. I really don't know. I don't remember a lot of things when my family, my mom and dad left. I don't remember a lot because I just don't. I mean, the main thing I remember whenever my mom and dad would leave would be us playing games like turning out the lights and playing ninjas in the dark. Or when my brothers would be like, Lisa, I'd go and hide in the bathroom and they'd be like, Lisa, you need to come out. We're not going to say anything. You can't tell mom and dad, da-da-da. I remember things like that. I don't remember, like, actual incidents. Like, what happened before that. Part of me wonders, And there's some of my brother's friends that have had interests in me. And I wonder why. I don't 100% know. It's like that odd vague feel you get when you kind of like you think you know something, but you don't really. So you don't say anything if you don't 100% know, because that would be lying. And I don't believe in sharing stories if I don't 100% know that they actually happened. I do know that the one with my brother and my brother's friend happened. I know that 100% because it just came to me. Like, I blocked it out all my life, but when I restarted going back to therapy in my high school years, I started working through this workbook. And this is one of the reasons my mom would take my stuff and she'd read it. She'd read my sexual abuse handbook, and she'd read my diaries and stuff like that, because they wanted to see what I was saying to my therapist and what I was writing in my journal. They wanted to know every little thought I had, like every feeling I had, all my memories and my own thoughts. They wanted to know everything so they could prepare what they were going to say and do. And at one point, my mom was going through my stuff and she saw that I had said something about my brother. And basically, she had the whole family get into one of those meetings and talk about it. And she sent up one of my in-laws to come talk to me, who's really small, like me. And thinking that she would be a best choice to talk to me and talk me into not talking about it and everything. Well, they wanted to know what I was thinking anyway, so I think that's why they sent her up there. Because once they found out, I was so embarrassed, and my mom just had me go to my room and wait there, and they went and had their little talk, and I guess they confronted my brother. And he must have denied it, of course. Like, he's going to admit to something like that. I'm sure he remembers, but to this day, he denies it. and the family doesn't talk about it. It's one of those hush-hush things that everybody says didn't happen. You know, people just say, oh, we don't talk about that. That's what it became. It's like a big time thing. It's a conspiracy theory or something like that. I don't know. But they always get on my case when I bring it up. When I brought it up to anybody, they will always call me or say something like, why am I talking about it? Yeah, that's what they'll do. So I'm sure they'll say something again because I'm talking about it in public. But you know what? I don't care. It happened. It happened to me. And they were ready to kick me back to the adoption agency, which is why I said I wish they had, because, you know, at least maybe I would have been given to somebody that cared for me, you know. And that was one thing that I was going to talk about. There's other things, but I think this is enough for now. Wrap your head around the fact that happened, and that's always our main thing that they're worried about with me. And I think that's the only reason they kept me, is they didn't want me going and saying things. Because if I'd gone back to the adoption agency, they know I probably would have said stuff about it, and then I could have used his name. But, you know, whatever. I don't have to use his name. There's 3 brothers. I have 3 brothers, okay? It's like common denominator. I mean, basically, it's a draw. 3 brothers. It's got to be one of them, right? You do the math. So a third of a chance, 30% chance, 30-point-something% chance that you'd get it right if you guessed one of the brothers, you know? So if it makes them all look bad, whatever. I don't really care, because, you know, them not letting me and acting like he was some innocent when he had like hippie hair back in his days. And he had the worst choice in females and in friends. His one friend's a biker guy. He's so hypocritical. He acts like he's this self-righteous Jesus freak type. But nice try. I know what you like to do with little kids. And that's sick. That is really freaking sick. And I know my brother might not have been the main one. You know, that's why I'm pretty sure he was manipulated as well. So maybe he didn't have an odd thought. I don't know. But I know that the 18-year-old knew better than to touch on a little 8-year-old kid. I don't have any love lost for that nasty, sicko person. And, you know, it makes me disgusted to know that maybe he was with other children, because he does have nieces and nephews. Not my brother. I'm talking about this guy, the guy that was 18. His friend, who was always over, by the way. And I don't know, he never rubbed me right. And to know that he was like that with me makes me wonder if he's done that with his own nephews and nieces or anybody else. I'm not saying he has, but I'm not saying anything against it either. Because if they'll do it to some kid when they're little, why not? And he knew better. He was 18. I was a little kid, so I wouldn't have known better. And even if my biological mom taught me that stuff, doesn't give anybody right to sit there and be like, well, she's already abused. She's already been a victim. Let's just do whatever we want out of her too. Like, that's no excuse to do that to somebody. So, yeah, that was what I've had to deal with a lot of my life, and it really made some of my teen years even be crap. And that's why I was, you know, I had to go through counseling most of my high school years as well. And I had a lot of emotional issues, you know, that I suffered because all throughout my life, men would come make passes at me, even in high school. touch me inappropriately at work and other things. And I just accepted it because my family taught me, they taught me that basically if something happens to you, Lisa, you shouldn't say anything about it. It's like they're hypocrites, They all got on my case when I didn't press charges to this older man when I worked at Wendy's. He had gray hair, so he had to be like old. But he always would reach around me and like almost like touch on against my breasts. And when he's trying to do my apron, because you know how sometimes you're working so fast and you're like doing your little thing in the dishes and stuff, or you're just taking orders and all that, and the apron thing will come off sometimes, and I wouldn't even think about it, but he would be like, no, you never have this apron very well tied. And he'd just reach around me like he's trying to help me and everything, but he could just have gone behind me and tied it, but no, he had to reach around because he wanted to do a certain thing. And I didn't tell on him. Instead, I just left because I didn't feel comfortable with him always doing that and flirting with me and everything. I didn't feel right being there. Plus, there's other weirdos there that were always talking to me about odd sexual innuations and stuff. So I was like, part of me, that whole freaking job was nothing but a bunch of nasty sickos. Which, I was used to because that's been my life. So, but yeah, basically, I didn't report him. And there was also an incident where I was like, some stuff in my drink was spiked, and Wendy's was afraid that my parents would sue them because I was like out of it and gone and saying odd things. And so I was at one of the work parties, and yeah, that was way out there. But I just decided to leave, and I just went to work for Myers, which was no better because there's weirdo sickos there too, but that's my life. A bunch of nasty sickos that just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just attract weirdos because I try to be nice to people. I guess so. But yeah, my family is like, Lisa, you should have reported that person. Like, they got mad at me. And I was like, now that I think back on it, it's like, how dare you all be so hypocritical? Like, okay, as long as it's not in-house and in our little group, it's okay for me to report any nasty sicko and y'all support my decisions. But if it's anybody that's personally related, heaven forbid, I even mentioned the person's name to any of my therapists. Like, it was like I was being hounded, not even for actually reporting anything to the police or anything. All I was doing was working through my own workbook, my own sexual abuse workbook that my mom gave to me so I could get through issues. And it's not my fault that this came out in therapy. Like, heaven forbid, like, I have to say every little thing right as long as I don't say a word about any of my family members. You realize that a lot of therapy is related to people you are closest to. Like, don't people get that? Like, so yeah, things are gonna come out. Like, I don't think they get that. Like, they always put in my head, my issues are only from my biological family. No, they weren't. My adopted family brought me just as much emotional issues as my biological. If not more so, because I've been with them longer. I was with them longer. And I didn't even tell you about my nephews, which I might do that next time. I also have another in-law that she's a real pain in the ass. She's a bitch. But she's no longer with the family, so I can talk as much as I want about her. But I'm not, of course, going to use her name because I wouldn't put it past her to even be stalking me. Yeah, I know everybody can think I'm paranoid all you want, but you know what? This is what you get when you have narcissistic people. in your life and you're an empathic type person and you feel for other people, even when they do wrong to you. Like, when that happened to my brother and me, I felt so like, almost like mixed emotions. In one sense, I was like embarrassed that I had even said anything, because now I realize like this is making us all really weird and awkward around each other. That was so weird for a while. It was really weird even being around him. And then people just acted like it didn't happen, and that was just as weird. Like, so that was another emotion. And it's like, and then I felt bad that he had been, I'd said that. Even though it's true, I still felt bad for him, because maybe he didn't really want to do that. Maybe he was just coerced. But, I was even younger than him. I'm youngest. I'm only the second to the youngest. My biological brother is the baby. I'm second to the youngest. I was a little kid too. So, the fact that I'm even sitting here saying that I felt bad for someone that touched me inappropriately, it just shows you my whole mentality, especially back then. I was always worried about the other person's feelings, never mine. Like, I rarely ever felt only bad for myself. I might for a little bit, and then I would snap out of it and I would feel like, oh, what about this person? And then I would cry for that person. I was that type. I could cry for anything else. I could cry for everybody else in the world. That's why I cry during all sappy movies, because I can relate with them. I feel for them, And yeah, Isaac always looks at me when I'm watching my little movies and it's like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh, that person. I'm like sitting there sobbing my eyes out. I'm very emotional, people. You should just know that about me. But yeah, this has been long enough, because I think it has. So I'm sorry it's so long, but some stories, they take a while to get out, and you have to tell the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. But I hope that you learned some odd things about me. And I hope that my family doesn't mind that I told this. I'm sure they would, but maybe they're not on my stuff, so I might actually be okay. But, I'm just starting to be more real. And I'm sick of just painting one side of me, because that's why I really didn't even want to make my life story anymore, because they're like, well, we're going to make sure what you write, we're going to approve it first before you actually submit it in. And like, they were wanting to get to have the names they wanted to be and this and that. It's like, you're not the ones writing the story. I am. It's my life story. It's me writing it. Just let me freaking write my own way and butt out. But no, it's like, I'm not going to be told how I can write my own life story. Like, I don't know what happened to me. Like, they didn't give a crap when I said about anybody else, but they do when I say something about them. Like, I say something about my birth mom, Ruby. I say anything, and they're always the ones encouraging it anyways. But, I say anything little small about them, even if it's true, they don't want to hear the truth. My mom's notorious for not ever wanting to hear the truth. I could write her and tell her certain things. Oh, the family just loves you, Lisa. They love you so much. They're just busy, or they're this, that. She always has some stupid excuse for them. Like, no, they don't. They don't love me. They don't care. They could give a shit about my freaking little life. Honestly. If anything, they'll be jealous when I am somewheres. But you know what? I've been down on the bottom for them long enough. It's time for this girl to get somewhere. It's time for me to shine, for people to see that I can be something. It's not like I've always been a deadbeat like this. I've had jobs you all just never knew, because social media wasn't as big a thing back then. If I did, I would have showed you all my workplaces. I'd have brought you to all my different stuff. on the different places I went to, different mishaps I had. If I had to sell back then, like kids these days do in their little work jobs and shit, you guys could have seen that sicko touching on me. I would have been like, see, this is the weirdo. That would have been cool. But they didn't have things like that back then. It was so lame. We had to go to the library back then. That's how old I am, people. But you can't tell, can you? But I didn't cry this time. Thank God. I'm so happy I didn't freaking cry. Because usually I talk anything about my family and it brings me to tears. Because it's so sad. But this was just kind of a more disturbing thing, I guess. Wasn't as much like that way. Is like just not right at all. So, but yeah, I have other stories too. This was one of my biggest things that really put a wedge between me and my family, and I think it's what really ruined our relationship. And the sad thing is my family's so good at hiding things that even my niece has been touched by her own uncle. And, you know, raped and molested when she was a little toddler and she doesn't even know. It's just sad. It's just so sad that they're willing to even hide it from their own child. Like, one of my brothers. It's just like, how can you hide something like that from your own daughter? I don't know. I would want my daughter to know, and for this stupid drug addict uncle to get in trouble. Or at least be known for what he was. Instead of some great person, even though everybody knew he was a drug addict. I mean, gosh, at least tell somebody that it happened. What you think, not saying it subconsciously, she would somewhat know. I think she needs to start working through it. You know, I've been since I was a little toddler, but at least I knew. And I knew when I was 8 that I was touched. And, you know, I cut it out of my own mind for a while so that I can move on with my brother and we wouldn't get kicked out, because part of me realized my family wouldn't believe me. Because when you're adopted, they'll always believe they're biological before they believe you. It's just a little piece of wisdom. So if you're an adopted kid and you get adopted by people that already have kids, just know that. Don't ever think that they're gonna come to your rescue. Even if something bad happened, if it was between theirs and you, they're gonna choose their own. Always. That's always going to happen. That's the curse of us being adopted. We're disposable. They're not. They're real biological, and we're just adopted. We're nobodies. We're not really anybody's kids, you know, and that's what I've had to deal with. So I hope that you don't have to deal with people like that in your life. I hope that you've had a great life and that you've had many fun adventures. Nothing nasty and sick that you've had to put under the rug, because society says it's not acceptable to rat somebody out for what they actually have done. But, you know, when we go and stand before God in the pearly gates, the truth shall be revealed. And I'll be set free that it actually happened. And then people can say, wow, Lisa, I guess it really did. I'll be like, duh. Have I ever hardly said lies like that? Especially when I was a kid. No. I told on myself half the time. So, you know what? And my brothers were more the lies and manipulators, not me. They had a lot more secrets than I did. Hiding drugs, sneaking out. Yeah, I was the goody-goody. So, I don't know what goes on in my family's heads, but they're loco. But I think this is good enough. I'm almost at 50 minutes, so I will let you go to your normal, happy, perfect lives. Well, maybe not perfect, but you know. Toodles. Have sweet dreams.